Lesson 11. History of Persia and Greece. Memory verse. Today if you will hear his voice, harden not your heart, as in the provocation, and as in the day of temptation in the wilderness. Psalm 95, verses 7 and 8. Further reading. The Story of Daniel the Prophet by Stephen N. Haskell, pages 161 to 199. Heartbeat. If you were an emperor of a great heathen kingdom, and you learned about the living God, what would you have done? Sunday, History of Persia. God is the only perfect and authentic historian. The Bible gives us an unbiased record of world events. The Medo-Persian Empire came into existence to be an instrument in God's hand, to spread his truth and to deliver his people from the bondage of Babylon. When it fulfilled its mission, the Spirit of God was withdrawn, and they passed from the stage of action. In Daniel chapter 11, we will see again three kingdoms, Medo-Persia, Greece, and pagan and papal Rome. But in this last interview with Daniel, Gabriel gave a detailed history of each empire in literal language. Of all the visions that Daniel received, this one has caused the most controversy. Question 1. What does the angel tell Daniel about the Persian Empire? Daniel chapter 11, verses 1 and 2. Also I, in the first year of Darius the Mede, even I, stood to confirm and to strengthen him. And now will I show thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia, and the 4th shall be far richer than they all. And by his strength through his riches, he shall stir up all against the realm of Grecia. The reign of Darius was honored of God. To him was sent the angel Gabriel, to confirm and to strengthen him. Daniel chapter 11, verse 1 quoted. Upon his death, within about 2 years of the fall of Babylon, Cyrus succeeded to the throne, and the beginning of his reign marked the completion of the 70 years since the first company of Hebrews had been taken by Nebuchadnezzar from their Judean home to Babylon. Prophets and Kings, pages 556 and 557. Question 2. Who are the kings that ruled the Persian Empire after the death of Darius? Daniel chapter 11, verse 2. And now will I show thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia, and the 4th shall be far richer than they all. And by his strength through his riches he shall stir up all against the realm of Grecia. After the death of Darius, Cyrus his nephew took the throne, and these are the next kings who ruled the Persian Empire. 1. Cambyses, the son of Cyrus. He was the Ahasuerus mentioned in Ezra chapter 4, verse 6. Ruled from 530 to 522 BC. 2. Bardia, called False Smerdis, who was an impostor. 3. Darius the Persian issued the second decree. Ruled from 522 to 468 BC. 4. Xerxes, known as Ahasuerus, ruled from 520 to 465 BC, who was the husband of Queen Esther. The Medo-Persian kingdom was at its height during his reign, having 127 provinces extending from India to Ethiopia. The last Medo-Persian king was Artaxerxes Longimanus. He issued the final decree for the return of the Jews to their homeland in 457 BC. This decree included all that was contained in the decrees of Cyrus and Darius, and gave further commandment to build the wall and establish a government. The Story of Daniel the Prophet, page 176. Sadly, even after the experience in the days of Esther and Xerxes, only a small company of Jews returned with Ezra to their homeland. Apply it. Most of the Jews who were in Babylon did not want to return to their homeland. When God asks you to go somewhere where you don't feel like going, do you obey? Or are you stubborn like the Jews? Monday, History of Greece. The Persian Empire became weak, and the angel withdrew his sheltering wings over this nation. Its probation had passed, and Greece came on the scene of action. Did you know who were the ancestors of the Greeks? Their patriarch was Javan, who came from the family of Japheth, a son of Noah. Javan settled in the islands of the Mediterranean, and his children were the Greek people. Question 1. How did Gabriel introduce the Greek Empire? Who was their mighty king? Daniel chapter 11, verse 3. And a mighty king shall stand up, that shall rule with great dominion, and do according to his will. Alexander was the mighty king that shall stand up. He was not a Greek, but a Macedonian, the son of King Philip of Macedon. As a boy, Alexander had an invincible will. He was educated by Aristotle, the illustrious pupil of Plato, in the wisdom of the Greeks. When 20 years of age, Philip, king of Macedon, died, leaving the government to Alexander. This was the year 336 BC. Alexander united the independent states of Greece and placed himself at the head of their council. The Greeks were ambitious, and the new general organized an army for foreign conquest. The story of Daniel the prophet, page 185. Question 2. What made Greece different from the other empires? 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 22. For the Jews require a sign, and the Greeks seek after wisdom. At the height of Alexander the Great's leadership, Greek culture dominated the world, and their language was spoken from the Italian peninsula to the borders of India. Alexander founded about 20 cities around the world and called them Alexandria. In such a way, he promoted the Greek culture as it was taught to him by Aristotle. The history of Greece is the history of physical and intellectual culture. The people admired grace and beauty, and her literary minds worshipped the intellect. Plato, the greatest of Greek philosophers, lived 400 years before Christ. The Jews mingled the teachings of the Bible with the philosophy of Plato, and that formed the traditions of men against which Christ so often warned his followers. The story of Daniel the prophet, page 183. Tuesday, the conqueror is conquered. Alexander was a great conqueror. In 8 short years, he expanded his kingdom to include Asia Minor, Babylon, Egypt, and India. But was he also successful in his daily life affairs? Question 1. What was the ending of Alexander's career as king and general of Greece? Daniel chapter 11, verses 3 and 4. And a mighty king shall stand up, that shall rule with great dominion, and do according to his will. And when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken, and shall be divided toward the 4 winds of heaven, and not to his posterity, nor according to his dominion which he ruled. For his kingdom shall be plucked up, even for others beside those. When man makes such a resolution to do according to his will, it means that he has been offered a choice between God and Satan and has chosen the latter. The story of Daniel the prophet, page 187. Alexander found it much easier to subdue kingdoms than to rule his own spirit. After conquering nations, this so-called great man fell through the indulgence of appetite, a victim of intemperance. Christian Temperance and Bible Hygiene, page 29. Question 2. Did Alexander have an opportunity to hear about the living God and to choose to serve him? How did he respond to the truth? Psalm 95, verses 7 and 8. For he is our God, and we are the people of his pasture and the sheep of his hand. Today, if you will hear his voice, harden not your heart, as in the provocation, and as in the day of temptation in the wilderness. Just like God permitted Nebuchadnezzar and Cyrus to have an encounter with his people that they might know him, the living God, so he allowed Alexander to learn of him. Josephus, the Jewish historian, writes that Alexander stopped in Jerusalem. But the high priest, Judas, had a dream in which he was bidden to go out to meet Alexander, arrayed in his priestly garments and accompanied by the temple officers clad in white. When Alexander met this company, much to the surprise of his army and generals, he bowed to the ground to worship the God whose name was on the mitre worn by the high priest. He then accompanied the priest to the temple at Jerusalem, where the sacrifices were explained. Moreover, the prophecies of Daniel concerning the rise and fall of Babylon, the conquests of Medo-Persia, and its subsequent fall and the rise of a third empire were explained. Daniel, who had witnessed before Nebuchadnezzar and Cyrus, was then quoted to Alexander. The mighty conqueror was in the presence of the Spirit of God, and was given the message that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will. Would he bow in submission, and let God conquer for him? This was the opportune moment in his life. Alexander acknowledged God, but left Jerusalem and pushed forward in battle. Gaza fell. Egypt was entered, and there, in order to gratify a selfish pride, he had himself proclaimed son of Jupiter Ammon. He who might have become a son of God, chose rather to be called the son of Jupiter. It is sad but impressive commentary for those who seek the ways of the world in preference to the truths of God. The story of Daniel the prophet, pages 186 and 187. At the summit of his success, Alexander died at the young age of 33. The emperor, who did according to his will, died after 2 days of excessive drinking of alcohol and an attack of malaria fever. Apply it. Are you in control of your appetite, or is your appetite controlling you? Are you able to leave off junk foods, soda, chips, and foods loaded with sugar and fat, or do you feel you can't stop eating chips until you finish the whole bag? Question 3. What happened to the Greek Empire after the death of Alexander? Daniel chapter 11, verse 4. And when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken, and shall be divided toward the four winds of heaven, and not to his posterity, nor according to his dominion which he ruled. For his kingdom shall be plucked up, even for others beside those. Alexander's kingdom was divided into 4 parts, and divided by his 4 generals. Alexander had a son named Alexander IV, by the Bactrian princess Roxana. When the boy was 12 years old, he was assassinated by Cassander, Alexander's general, in 311 BC. Wednesday, the North versus South. After Alexander's death, his 4 generals took over the empire, but eventually they turned on one another. Ptolemy's kingdom in the south was made up of Egypt and Palestine, while the kingdom of Seleucus in the north extended from Asia Minor to India. Question 1. How did Daniel describe what would happen between the northern and southern kingdoms? Read the verse and the explanation for each one. Daniel chapter 11, verses 5 to 9. And the king of the south shall be strong, and one of his princes, and he shall be strong above him, and have dominion. His dominion shall be a great dominion. And in the end of years they shall join themselves together. For the king's daughter of the south shall come to the king of the north to make an agreement. But she shall not retain the power of the arm, neither shall he stand, nor his arm. But she shall be given up, and they that brought her, and he that begot her, and he that strengthened her in these times. But out of a branch of her roots shall one stand up in his estate, which shall come with an army, and shall enter into the fortress of the king of the north, and shall deal against them, and shall prevail, and shall also carry captives into Egypt their gods, with their princes, and with their precious vessels of silver and of gold. And he shall continue more years than the king of the north. So the king of the south shall come into his kingdom, and shall return into his own land. Verse 5. After Ptolemy of Egypt the king of the south died, his son Ptolemy the second Philadelphus ruled Egypt and Lydia. He was a wise ruler, and the kingdom prospered financially under his administration. In verse 6, the southern and northern kingdoms fought each other for about 35 years, and at last made peace when Antiochus II, Theos of the north, married Bernice, the daughter of the Egyptian king Ptolemy, the second Philadelphus of the south. To marry her, Antiochus II had to put away his first wife Laodice and his children. Soon he discovered that Bernice was not a good match, so he called his first wife Laodice and the children back to court. Laodice was not willing to take a chance of being deposed again, so she poisoned Antiochus II and placed her son Seleucus Callinicus on the throne. She also had Bernice, her son, and the Egyptian attendants at court murdered. Apply it. Our Heavenly Father knows about every broken heart and shattered home. He knows the overwhelming cruelty with which human beings can treat each other. He wants to comfort, encourage, and help us in every personal tragedy. Why don't you ask him? Verse 7, Bernice's brother, Ptolemy III Euergetes, formed a massive army and invaded the north to avenge the death of his sister. Verse 8, Ptolemy III, Bernice's brother. Her roots succeeded in his campaign against King Seleucus of the north. He made it to Babylon, plundered the city, took back to Egypt all the religious artifacts that were stolen by the Persian king Cambyses. Question 2. What monumental work did Ptolemy II Philadelphus help to be completed? Daniel chapter 11, verse 5. And the king of the south shall be strong, and one of his princes, and he shall be strong above him, and have dominion. His dominion shall be a great dominion. When the Jews fled to Egypt, then God took advantage of their presence there and turned it to his glory. Ptolemy Philadelphus founded the Alexandrian Library, and it was he who encouraged the translation of the Old Testament into Greek. It was thus that the prophecies concerning the promised Messiah were put into the universal language, nearly 300 years before the birth of Christ. The story of Daniel the prophet, page 192. Ptolemy II Philadelphus called a group of 70 scholars to translate the Hebrew Old Testament scriptures into Greek. When they finished the translation, they gave it the name of the Septuagint, which means 70 because of the number of translators. Apply it. As we study about the kings and empires of the world, we see many sad histories of bloodshed, murder, adultery, revenge, and chaos. What about your life? If someone would write the history of your life, what would it be like? Thursday, more wars. Question 1. What events took place between the next generation of kings, in the south and the north? Read the verses from the Bible, then read each one again and read the explanation below. Daniel chapter 11, verses 10 to 12. But his sons shall be stirred up, and shall assemble a multitude of great forces. And one shall certainly come, and overflow, and pass through. Then shall he return, and be stirred up, even to his fortress. And the king of the south shall be moved with choler, and shall come forth and fight with him, even with the king of the north. And he shall set forth a great multitude, but the multitude shall be given into his hand. And when he hath taken away the multitude, his heart shall be lifted up, and he shall cast down many 10,000s, but he shall not be strengthened by it. Verse 10, Seleucus Callinicus had 2 sons, his sons shall be stirred up, who tried to regain the territory that had been taken by Ptolemy the third Euergetes. The older son succeeded his father, but he was a weak and inefficient leader. His brother, Antiochus Magnus, became king in his place and assembled a multitude of great forces, recovering Seleucia and Syria. Verse 11, the king of the south, Ptolemy the fourth Philopator, from 222 BC to 225 BC, met Antiochus the third Magnus, the king of the north, at the battle of Raphia in 217 BC. Prophecy tells us, he shall set forth a great multitude. His force numbered 70,000 infantry and 5,000 cavalry. After a fierce battle, Antiochus III lost 10,000 infantry, 300 cavalry, and 4,000 of his soldiers were taken captive. After this defeat, he returned home. Verse 12, elated by his victory, Ptolemy the fourth Philopator entered the temple in Jerusalem and tried to profane it by offering sacrifices. When the priests restrained him, he was furious and made war against the Jews. Ptolemy killed between 40 to 60,000 Jews, who were then living in Alexandria in Egypt. Apply it. Did you notice the terrible character traits exhibited in the lives of these kings? Selfishness, greed, covetousness, hate, anger, pride, jealousy, and others. We are studying their history, so we may not repeat it. What are your dominant character qualities? Do you reflect the lovely character of Jesus? Friday, choose today. Did you notice that each nation in the prophetic chain had some strong feature that distinguished it from the others? Babylon established a religion which counterfeited heavenly worship. It had the basest form of idolatry and fornication. Medo-Persia was a type of oriental dictatorship, and Greece gained control of the world by the power of her intellect. With education and philosophy, she gained a foothold which no other nation ever could. In fact, Greek philosophy is still with us today. People are studying its ideas hidden under the guise of modern writers. Greek philosophy and ideas are instilled in the minds of children and youth. The sad fact is that many students graduate from high school and college, knowing more about Greek philosophers than about Jesus, the man of Calvary. Question 1. As you study in high school and university, what can you do to protect yourself from human philosophy? John chapter 8, verse 32. And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Hebrews chapter 12, verses 2 and 3. Looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God. For consider him that endured such contradiction of sinners against himself, lest ye be wearied and faint in your minds. Question 2. What decision does the Lord ask you to make each day? Joshua chapter 24, verse 15. And if it seem evil unto you to serve the Lord, choose you this day whom ye will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites, in whose land ye dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. The message for us today is, choose you this day, Joshua chapter 24, verse 15 quoted. At which shrine will you bow? Will you sit at the feet of Jesus, learning of him, taking his word as the authentic history of the world? Will you take his word to be the interpreter of nature, and so ensure eternal life? On the other hand, if you accept the writings of men, full of human speculations about the history of the world, its creation, and its age, you will be greatly deceived. If you try to speculate what you can only know by faith, you will lose your eternal life. Speculating on human theories will lead us away from our Creator, who is the center of the universe and the source of all wisdom. The first system of education comes from God. It has faith as its motive power. The second is the Greek system, which exalts human reasoning. Apply it. Which of the systems of education described above will you follow, God's system or the Greek system?